Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug video. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the future of the franchise. And now obviously, as we know from Zag, who loves to post about the future of the franchise, even before plans have been properly finalised, the show is going to go past this latest season and move into a fresh saga with fresh villains. And we also know that there's a film that's going to eventually release at some point in the future. An animated film, that is. And if it does well, I reckon then it'll get sequels and all that jazz. Cinematic universe, kaboom. And that's just how it is. You'd be a fool to turn down the financial potential of this franchise. But then recently, and I know it's a long shot, there was a Zag post where he referenced a theoretical live-action adaptation. And yeah, I doubt that this is one that is actually in the works or anything like that. And if there is something in the works, it's in the extremely early stages, just like pitch meetings, elevator conversations, water cooler talk, that sort of stuff. It'd probably just be a theoretical idea. And honestly, I think the post was mostly just Zag being Zag and then deleting the post when somebody told him that it was probably a little bit too baity. But it did get me thinking, should there be a live-action Miraculous adaptation? Is that something people would actually want? Is that something that would succeed in any real way or do well financially? Would it do well critically? Would it pull the franchise to the next level or bomb it completely and make it look like an utter joke? That's the question I'm aiming to answer in this video, and so strap yourselves in and let's jump into it. And so yeah, I really hate videos that pose a big question like this and then don't give an answer until the actual last second. And so, should Miraculous have a live action adaptation? No, it shouldn't. It will not turn out well. And that's for a number of reasons we will explore right now. And honestly, you got to start with the biggest one, the elephant in the room. A live action adaptation of this story, of these characters, of this world, it would be stupid and majorly cringe. And this is in a number of different ways. There are so many things about this tale that works exclusively as an animation, but in live action would be completely and utterly ridiculous. And I mean, one thing is character designs. For one, the optics of young teenagers in skin-tight bodysuits makes me feel a little bit queasy. But on the other hand, whilst the designs of the hero costumes are fine in theory, for the animation, in live action, they're stupid. Simply put, a live action domino mask looks dumb. I don't care what you've seen it in, it looks dumb. And a character in a polka dotted bodysuit looks even worse. Especially since you just know for a fact they'd give her some god-awful wig to get the right hairstyle and keep that bluish hue to her hair. Ugh. And on top of that, teenage guy is meant to be a heartthrob in a black gimp suit with cat ears and a bell around his neck and a tail belt. Ugh. That does not look like a superhero, but a costume from a fetish website. And I'm sorry, but you know it's true. I think some of the minor hero costumes and the villain costumes might actually work. Maybe with a little bit of tinkering. You can't really tinker with the main character costumes. Because you are actively trying to make them look like their cartoon counterparts, because, they're the main draw, the main hero, the face of the franchise, and so they're going to end up looking pretty damn ridiculous. And so yeah, character design, that's one reason. But there is more. Because next up, we're talking characterization. Things that play out in a certain way. The way characters act. That all works in the show, and would work in the animated film, I think. But it would not work in any way in live action. One example would be the way that Marinette behaves, specifically her weird stalker tendencies. Whilst many already find it cringe in the show, it is played for laughs and sometimes is a bit funny. However, can you actually imagine seeing this play out in live action with a real actress when there are real people involved? For me at least, the optics quickly shift from funny and a bit dumb to really weird and really creepy, unhealthy and sad. Like, it's how in anime, there's moments of ridiculous cartoon violence. People getting punched through a wall or put through a table just for the crime of upsetting the main character. And in the optics of these shows, it's put through a comedic lens. But in reality, in a live action, it feels crazy and abusive. And so I don't really see how this is any different. What's funny for an animated Marinette to do is weird for a live action Marinette to do. Gabe has a similar issue. In the show, whilst he's clearly not the best dad, it's never framed as outright abuse. It's more a desperate man doing what he can to save his family. And so you accept it somewhat, even if the fandom, even now, widely calls him abusive. But in live action, it would seem so much worse, to the point that you could never ever write a Gabe redemption ending, which to me seems to be the direction the show's actually heading towards, because who the hell would want to see that? Also, take a look at Cat Noir and his very pushy attitude to his romantic intentions with Ladybug. As many people can tell you, I'm sure, in real life, a dude that does not take no for an answer and keeps trying to kiss you over and over and ask you out over and over can be very creepy and actually very frightening. And so suddenly the optics for this behavior is very different too. Because when you see it play out with real people, the characters no longer come across the way that they would in the animation. And in the end, everything ends up being a bit of a mess. It's the same with the hero and villain dynamics. A big part of the show is that it's pretty much a monster of the week type of deal, or at least it had been for many seasons. These days, often Gabe does get involved himself in the story, but a big part of the show is that monster of the week vibe. The heroes have to overcome these villains and protect Paris from the unseen threat of Hawkmoth, a villain whom they actually rarely ever talk to, or ever really see, let alone battle against. And I just don't think that vibe would work for the film. Well, maybe it'll work for the animated film, but I'm still not convinced there. I just don't see how you can establish a very compelling dynamic in that single film where you legitimately care about the conflict between the heroes and the villains when they've never really been in the same location for any real stretch of time. And instead, the heroes are fighting against some powered up goons. It doesn't make for a compelling story for a 90-minute film. The show has the luxury to slowly build it up, develop it over time. A film doesn't, and a live action adaptation will almost certainly be a film. So no dice there. Plus, even if they do have Gabe join the battle, how do you manage to go through all of his storyline in such a short time, whilst also trying to do the Love Square stuff and the Guardian stuff and all of that? The arcs of your two major heroes, plus there's the side characters to worry about as well. It's just too much, and it lends itself to being a complete and utter disaster. Beyond that, I actually think an adaptation would fall flat at the box office and in terms of critical scores. Critically, I don't think I've ever seen a live-action adaptation of a pre-existing animated franchise that has ever come close to the original in terms of its acclaim or quality. And this, for me, for the reasons I've already listed, feels like it's going to be no exception. And so, yeah, who the hell's actually going to like this to begin with? So already that feels like one reason to just back away slowly from this terrible idea and forget it ever existed. But beyond that, there's the financial question. How could this expect to make any money at all? Are live-action adaptations like this ever lucrative? I know the Disney remakes have been in the past, but there's a big difference between those. This feels more akin to a live-action adaptation of a popular anime, that sort of thing. And I've never really heard of those adaptations having that much success. So already, would people go to see it in droves? What if the animated film was already mega successful? This would just look like a low-budget knockoff. Who wants that? Who would want to see that? Who'd want to pay money to go and watch that film? Because to make this thing look good, you'd need a high budget. And I doubt this would get a high budget. So it would look bad. And it would have a weird story that doesn't fit the medium and has lots of cringe characters. It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. And so, yeah, I'll just reiterate. A live-action, miraculous film, if it is in the works, which I don't think it is, should never be made. There is no chance that it will ever be good. And the only way to make it passable would be to change so much that it no longer resembles the source material whatsoever. And who wants that? Not me, that's for sure. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this, so I'll end the video here and just say these have been my opinions and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think about the idea of a miraculous live action? Do you like it, hate it, spawn of the devil, or the best thing since sliced bread? I'm really curious for your thoughts on this, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know.